Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the...
Fries.
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm good.
I heard this girl on TikTok, and she was explaining the coolest concept, and by the very nature of just who we are, I feel like this is something that we basically always live by, and it might be one of the keys as to why our day-to-day outside of work is as fun as it is. And she brought it back to the concept of whistling while you work. She was talking about how she was folding her laundry and she made it like a whole thing, and she lit a candle and she put on some music, and instead of it being something that she had to do, she turned it into something that was actually enjoyable to be able to do. And it got me thinking about how outside of the things that we do for work, for a lot of us, first responders especially, it can become very difficult to be able to relearn who you are outside of the uniform.
I was just talking with some of my guys recently about this, and it's so important. Like I always say, what's rule number one for our team? And they give me all these different reasons or different excuses for things. And I said, no, it's to have fun. And because when we start having fun with not only what we're doing at work, when you're at home, you're not only identifying as this is who I am.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this a lot in the past, and I feel like there are a lot of people who they basically have their identity that's become so tied to the badge and what they do for work. And it's really important for us to be able to break down how to reclaim a fuller sense of just self without losing the pride in what you do for work.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be able to, when you're at work, you give your all. You be that cop, that first responder that you truly want to be able to provide that service. But when you come home, it's being able to be that husband, that wife, that father, that person that you can be fully present with your family. How
do you make sure that you don't get caught up in that trap?
I think it's really starting to, one, it's remembering like being a cop, it's not my identity. That's not who I am. It's having that understanding of it's something that I get to do, and I've earned that right to be able to protect the public and provide that service. But when I come home, it's being able to, I also earn that right to be the husband, to be the person who I am. And it's that simple mindset of I don't have to do anything, but I get to do this. And it's having that, like you said, it's having that mindset of everything in life, we don't have to do anything. We get to do it.
Yeah, and the psychological concept here is called occupational identity enmeshment. And it basically happens when a person's sense of self becomes so intertwined with their role that the little identity that they have outside of it can become really blurred. And another layer to what you just said that I want to add is you also have incorporated a lot of who you are as a person into what you do for work. You're not that straight edge, stereotypical, I want to use the term SWAT guy, because then you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, where there is no sense of self in your role.
Yeah, and it's, as you were saying that, I just thought of this, and I haven't told you the story yet. I was just thinking of it. And so we had our Chiefs luncheon the other day, and there's a lot of members of the public who go to this, and they're showing up and supporting our chief and supporting the foundation in which they're raising money for. And like, I knew a big majority of the people there, and there's this photo that Ashley had from a long time ago from a golf tournament that we had done, and I'm talking to these two older ladies, and they were at this event, and Mom, she turned 100 years old just recently, and I went over there and I was talking to her, and she's like, I just want to dance, and I helped her stand up from her chair, and I just held on to her, and we just like kind of moved a little bit. It's not like we were dancing, but it was just I held her for like a good 5 minutes.
And that's a perfect example of you just bringing in, that sweetness and that charm of who you are into the workplace. And you knowing, it's kind of funny because I'm just picturing the event and having not been there. And I would imagine that of everybody who was there, including the chief perhaps, you probably knew more people than most other people that were in attendance there. And that's a byproduct of you showing up and then being that genuine person that you are when you do go to work.
Yeah, and I think it's looking at everyone as you're building a relationship with them on a day-to-day basis, and just being there to not only just listen to their complaints and their issues that they have going on, but just treating them as a human being. And I think we get so far away from bringing in that compassion, that understanding of who we are as an individual, and not only identifying as I'm this cop, you have to do what I say, not only what I say, but you're going to follow all these rules that I'm implementing towards you. And when you start incorporating the human nature side of things and being there to listen to people and actually building a relationship with whoever you're talking with or dealing with, you can change that whole dynamic of just bringing in your human nature side.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of officers in particular, and you've posed this question to a lot of people that you've worked with, where you ask them, who are you? And when this starts to become a problem and you actually don't know your identity, it can be very difficult to actually be able to describe yourself outside of your job title. Maybe you have a loss of hobbies or interests or even friendships. We see that happen all of the time. And there are some signs that your identity, I believe, is too tightly tied to the role. And one of them is that you don't know what you enjoy anymore.
Yeah, when you don't have that self-identity and you only identify as who you are, as when you put on your vest, you put on your uniform every day, that's not you. That is your job, and you incorporate yourself into that job.
Another thing too is my best friend's getting ready to come out here from Texas, and he doesn't know that we're taking him somewhere. And in my mind, I was already thinking of imposing the no work talk while we hung out. And I think that it's because it can be very challenging to be off of work and not talk about work while you're off. And that too is intertwined into you losing your sense of identity.
Yeah, and that's one thing, like over the years we've done a lot of fishing trips with partners from my work and law enforcement officers, and being able to go out and go fishing. I always tell them first thing is like, hey, there's one rule on this boat, and it's not talking about work. Like, let's build those bridges elsewhere.
We also see social circles become almost entirely work related. And I remember at the beginning of your career, we thought that ought to be how our marriage was kind of built around your career. And very quickly, due to us hanging out with a law enforcement couple, and was it a domestic violence situation ensued between the two of them thereafter? And we realized, like, hey, maybe there's a reason why this shouldn't be our crowd outside of what you do for work.
Yeah, it's being able to create those boundaries and understand, and not every situation would be like that, but having that sphere of influence outside of your day-to-day is so important because it breaks you of your traditional habits.
We went to a training once, and one of the exercises that we had gone through, I remember the facilitator saying that he was able to kind of break apart from this himself by asking himself the question of, when did I last feel like I was just happy, like in the zone, and the people I was around were the people that I wish that I could go on vacation with. And he brought it back to when he used to play basketball with like an adult men's team outside of work, outside of school, like just something that everybody showed up to get to do. And so that kind of brought him back to some of the things that he was missing in his life.
Yeah, when you have those circles outside of your normal, you start recognizing the importance of having that self-identity and what you truly enjoy, not what you're told that you should be enjoying.
And this is hard, but it's so important to make sure that you're doing what you can to invest in relationships outside of your department. It takes time. There have been times where I've kind of gotten onto you a little bit, Clint, explaining that you can't have what you want if you're not willing to invest in it. And I had this conversation with my dad too, because he'll say comments along the lines of like, oh, well, that person never reaches out to me anymore. Oftentimes referring to like after my mom died, like that person dropped the relationship with him. And I have to ask him and push back, like, when's the last time that you reached out? Well, I don't. Okay, well, there you have it. Why should they? And it takes this even distribution of willingness to be able to build those bonds and to create those relationships outside of, the workplace.
Yeah, being able to, every relationship is two-sided, being able to put forth that effort to, have a sustainable relationship. It takes work on both sides.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.